Hey guys, welcome back to a new video. In today's video I am going to show you how to install pfSense 2.4.5 on a physical appliance with a USB drive. I'm just in the process of recording my pfSense Bootcamp Udemy course that will go over installing pfSense on VirtualBox, installing pfSense on a physical appliance, and going over all the basics that you need to run your pfSense firewall in your small business or in your home network. If you're interested in this pfSense Udemy course, follow me on Twitter. I'm at Ezoic, and I will drop the Udemy course once it's released. As I said, I'm still in the process of recording it. I am certainly sure it will be released in a couple of weeks from now, so if you want to stay up to date with that, just follow me on Twitter. I will also put the link to the course in the video description once it's released. And because I was already shooting this how to install pfSense on a physical appliance video for the Udemy course, I thought it's a great idea to also update the YouTube video, because we haven't done that in a while. The last video is a couple of versions back, so we are going to do that now to have everything up to date. And I know you guys always like this pfSense installation videos. It's a bit scary if you haven't done it before, and I will just guide you through it step by step. The only stuff that you need is a USB drive with at least 2 GB of space. Of course, the pfSense appliance itself, whatever appliance you choose, and you need a serial cable, and I have two different cables here. I have a serial RS232 to USB adapter and a serial to LAN port cable, and I go over that in the video which exact cables I'm using, so if you want to check that out, it's coming up in the video. Let's get right started. Let's head over to the computer and get started with the installation. Okay guys, to get started, make sure your USB drive is plugged into your computer, and also be aware that by following this procedure, everything on your USB drive will be deleted. So if you have any important files on there at all, make sure to save them somewhere else before proceeding with this tutorial. Now go to pfSense.org/download and download the appropriate pfSense image. Now it's AMD64 for the most cases. Then the installer depends, actually it does not depend. I click on USB memstick installer. Now the console part depends on your physical appliance. Now if you use an old computer to install this, you probably want to choose VGA because it has a VGA output. That's an output where you can plug your monitor in to get some input or to see something. If you have an appliance like me that does not have a VGA output, you need to choose serial. Then you need to choose a mirror where is what is convenient for you and click on download. Then it's downloading in the background. I already have downloaded that, so I'm not going to do that again. Open another tab, type in Win32 Disk Imager, click on the first link from sourceforge.net and click on accept here or do not accept, and download this as well. This is the tool that we use to create a bootable USB drive. Now once you have everything downloaded, open up your downloads folder. And I'm gonna clean that mess up a little bit here. Assuming you have Win32 Disk Imager installed and you have the pfSense image downloaded, you need to unzip the pfSense image, right click it. I have 7-zip here. I'll just use that. I think the default extract thing from Windows was disabled here. So I just extract it here, and in case you don't have 7-zip, just click on, I think there must be something extract here or extract to or something that comes with Windows. In case you don't have that, just download 7-zip or WinZip. And then you have the extracted IMG file right here. Okay, now we are ready to go. Hit your Windows key, type Win32 Disk Imager, click on open. I quickly have a black screen there because of the UAC. Make sure the correct USB drive is selected here. I have J is my USB drive, I know that. And then navigate to your downloads folder and select the pfSense IMG file. Click on open and then click on write. Now once again, all your data on your USB drive will be deleted. Click on write, click on yes, and the pfSense image is writing onto our USB drive. While the image is writing onto our USB drive, we are quickly going to talk about how I have configured the firewall for this particular tutorial. So the black cable that you see here is the cable that is connected to my switch. So you have two options here. The first option is you connect pfSense to an already existing network. So if you already have a router, you could plug in pfSense to any of the ports where the DHCP server is active, or in your switch or whatever. If you want to configure pfSense to run as your main router, that means you would need to connect this black cable in your modem. Okay, so now I have it connected to my actual network because I'm using DHCP for this tutorial. That's the easiest way on how showing you guys how to install that. We talk a little bit about that later, more how to configure the WAN interface for PPPoE and DHCP, what are the differences, etc. The yellow cable that you see here, this is the cable that runs into my computer. So this is the LAN interface and the LAN cable that is will be our network. The blue cable that you see here, that is the console cable. This is probably the most confusing and the hardest part to wrap your head around if you haven't done that yet. I just pulled this cable off here and I'm trying to show you a little bit better. So it depends if your firewall, if you buy an appliance from Netgate, I believe they deliver a console cable that fits for you. If that's not the case, you can buy a cable. And what I'm using here, and I'll show you that in a second on the screen, what kind of cable you should buy. I'm using a default Cisco serial R232 cable, which looks exactly like this. And then I'm having a adapter cable, which is from Ugreen, and I'm showing you exactly which cable I'm using. It looks like this, and on the other hand, it has a USB port. So it looks something like this. And what I do is, I connect those two cables together, and I quickly show you this. Awkward mic setup here, so... And then I plug the USB part of this cable into my computer. Now the reason for this is that most modern computers, they don't have a serial port anymore. That's why you need this USB adapter. And if you use a desktop to follow this tutorial, I recommend you to plug the USB cable into your mainboard directly, so in the back of your computer, not in any USB port that is on your PC case. So there could be problems, that's why I rather put it directly into the back of the computer. Doing that right now. There we go, the sound that we want to hear, and then we can continue with the actual installation. Alright, let's quickly have a look at the cable. So this is the exact cable that I am using. This is the Ugreen cable. I'm sure you can find it on eBay or on Amazon. Just look for this particular model. And what you also need then is a RS232 to LAN cable if you do the exact same setup like me. And this is not showing up. Let's look at that on Amazon. RS232 to LAN. And it would be a cable like this. Now you could also go and buy something like this, but I have no experience with it. I had very mixed experiences with those cables. Sometimes they work, sometimes they don't. So I rather run this setup because I know it works with this Ugreen thing. Okay, in case you use the Ugreen, I have it plugged into my computer and it will not recognize it per default. So you go to press the Windows key, then you type device manager, and probably now it still has it there. So I'm quickly... Don't mind what I'm doing now, I'm just uninstalling that for a second and then I'm replugging it. And there we go. Now if you use this cable, it will show up like this. It will say USB serial controller. That's very easy to fix. Right click it, click on update driver, click on search automatically, and Windows Update will pull that down for us. Okay, it already did it automatically now because I did it previously, but that's all you need to do. And then you find the cable under ports, COM and LTP. And what is important here to note is that first the name is prolific USB to serial COM port cable, and the COM port itself, which is COM3 in this situation. So this will be important in a second. Now you can see that I have already unplugged the USB drive that I wrote the image on, and I plugged it into the pfSense firewall USB port. That's what you should also do now. Next up, we are going to download a tool called Putty. So open Google, search for Putty. There we go, download Putty. Click here to download Putty. Then download the 64-bit or 32-bit version, depending on your system. If you don't know that, most likely if you have a newer computer, it's 64-bit. So download this and start it up once it's downloaded and install it. And I'll quickly do that too. Just run putty. And now if you have everything connected, if you have your USB serial adapter in place, then we are going to open up pfSense. Just Google pfSense serial, open the first link. Now there's additional information about how to use a serial port to install pfSense. Lots of information there, what kind of cables you should use, lots of different information on how to connect to it. We are using the easiest way, which is Putty, and that should be fine. So the important information that we need here is the baud speed. Once you have Putty open, then select serial, and remember the COM port that I told you about a few seconds ago. This you need to now set, in my case, to COM3, which is our USB adapter, and then we need to set this to 115,200 for the speed, and we should be good to go. Now click on open, and you will see that nothing is going to happen, and this is simply because I have unplugged my firewall. And now I'm going to switch my firewall on, and it will start booting up, and if we are lucky everything went well, we should see stuff showing up here in a couple of seconds. We'll give that a few seconds, and then it should, there was the sound, the promising sound that it's starting, and in my case it's automatically booting from the USB drive. Now if you have a different appliance that might be different, then you would need to look up how to access the boot menu on your particular device. That's probably very easy to find out just by googling your device name and boot menu or boot order, and you will find that information there. Now the pfSense installer is firing up. This is why we created the bootable USB drive, obviously. And it is a bit scary in the beginning when you do that for the first time, when you install pfSense for the first time. It was scary for me when I did it the first time. I never thought I would manage to do that with using those weird serial cables and stuff, but once you did it, then you will see that it's really not that hard at all. Okay, our first interaction with the pfSense installer will be choosing the terminal we want to use. I like Xterm, as a little bit more beautiful than the default VT100. So type Xterm, hit the enter key, then hit accept for the copyright notice, and hit the enter button again to install pfSense. I'm not good with talking today at all. Okay, next up we can select a key map, and I'm going to choose the German one because I have a German keyboard. So navigate down to whatever you want, hit not space but enter to select it, and then put the up arrow key, hit on the up arrow key to select continue with DE or whatever key map you have chosen. And next is the partition type or the file system that we want to choose. I'll stick with UFS because it's what I know. I know that CFS is the newer file system and is a little bit faster. So if you have experience with ZFS, happily use that. I'm gonna stick with UFS because that's what I always use. Then choose entire disk, choose confirmation that everything on the disk will be erased, yes, and leave it on MBR. That's perfectly fine. Double check if everything looks right. For me it does. And then hit enter again to finish, and hit enter again to commit, and be sure that everything will be erased from the disk. Now I'm going to show you how fast the pfSense installer is in the meanwhile. It's very cool, it's so fast. It's really nice to watch that. And while that is running, as always, if you like this video, do subscribe to my channel, hit the notification bell, and also leave a comment to satisfy the YouTube algorithm. You will help me out a lot with that. And yeah, thank you. Almost finished. There we go. I didn't want to talk for that long, so I think this short self-advertisement was appropriate. There we go, 100%. That was shy of a minute. Great. If we want to do some manual configuration, I definitely don't want to do that right now, so I'm hitting no, then I'm hitting enter again to reboot, and now it's very important that you unplug your USB drive. There we go. And if we did everything correctly, pfSense now should boot up. Let's see. Okay, I'm just going to show you the whole boot up process here, that you can actually see it's doing the same like on your end. Booting up all the interfaces. And I've re-recorded this video just now because I did a mistake while doing it. That's why you see cat photos there. What I want to show you with that is I actually plugged the yellow cable into my computer now, which is connected to the pfSense LAN interface. And as you can see now, we don't have an internet connection yet, but we will in a second once that is fired up. And the reason why that is already working is because I have plugged in the black cable, if you remember, into my switch where my actual network is residing. So this new firewall, this new pfSense firewall is getting an IP address from the DHCP server from my live pfSense firewall. That means we will have internet access here in a second. There we go. It's there. Now do that again. Cat photos. There we go. We have a working internet connection. We can click on the cat photo. It will load up and you can see that we have a connection there. Next up, the WAN interface here is indicated by the IP address 10.129. This is the IP address this pfSense firewall got from my actual pfSense firewall, as I just said. And we also see that the LAN IP address is 192.168.1.1. This is the IP address of your new pfSense firewall. Now, most likely you won't ever need to connect the serial console cable again, except you messed up your firewall very badly and you want to restore your configuration. Or what sometimes can happen is that the web interface kind of crashes or doesn't work anymore, so you would not be able to access pfSense over the web GUI anymore, which would mean you could plug in your console cable and you could select restart web configurator. So you would put 11, you would hit enter and would restart, and that mostly fixes the issue. Or you could also go ahead and reboot the firewall from here. You could also do that via SSH if you enable that later on in pfSense. Then you don't need to plug the serial cable in. This is the only thing that, probably the only reason you would see this menu ever again. Okay, now that we have pfSense successfully installed and we know that the IP address of our firewall is 192.168.1.1, we can open up a web browser and navigate to this. If you use Chrome, click on Advanced here on this warning, click on Proceed, and then log in with the default credentials of admin and password pfSense. Hit enter, and the initial configuration wizard starts. Now we are going to actually use this initial configuration wizard because I really like it. It's going over all of the important steps that you need to take to secure and initially set up your firewall. Click on Next. Read through the Netgate global support thing if you want to. If not, click Next. You could change the host name of your firewall to something else if you want to give it another name. I'll just leave it on pfSense. You could also change your local domain or your domain name if you have a domain in place. If you don't know what that means, just leave it on local domain. We're not worrying about DNS servers now. We leave this also checked for the default setup. That's perfectly fine. Click on Next. Then we want to select the correct time zone for our location. In my case, it's Europe and Berlin. Click on Next. Now this is probably the most important step of the whole installation. That's depending on the setup you want to run. This is the configure WAN interface option here. Now, as I have said previously, I set it to DHCP because I have a working network in place and I want my firewall not to be the only firewall in the system, and I don't have it connected to a modem. Now, if you want to use another router or you also have an existing network already, then DHCP is the right option. You would just go ahead and plug in the black cable here into your existing switch, network, router, whatever that you want to use pfSense on. If not, if you want to use pfSense actually as your main router, that means you need to connect the black cable to your modem. And if you do that, you need to change this configuration type here to PPPoE. Now you can scroll down a bit and you see that the PPPoE configuration option was enabled. I am not sure if this is the same in the United States or somewhere else on the planet. It might be that it's PPTP for your location, but usually that's very easy to find out. I'll just use the example for the German market, or for the German location here, which is PPPoE. So the letter that you got from your internet service provider, there would be your username on it. In my case, it would be username @telecom.de or something like that. Then the password, and service name would be, I would just put Telecom. It doesn't matter what you put here. You can put anything there. That would be all you need to set up. Then it would work with a modem. There's also a few more variables to it, like if it doesn't work, for example, if you have VDSL or super vectoring, you would need to set up a VLAN. Little bit more complicated, a topic for a different video. I have information on that up on Ezoic.com, so if you need a particular configuration on like how to connect pfSense with a modem, please look that up there. For the default configuration that we go over here, the default pfSense installation, we are not going to cover this. So I'm going to set this back to DHCP because that's what I run. Scroll down to the bottom, leave all those things checked per default. Those are security measures that you cannot lock yourself out, and some other stuff. Click on next. You could change the LAN IP address if you wanted. This is the IP address of your pfSense firewall. There's no reason to do that. If you want, you probably know what you do anyway, but if you don't know what that means, just leave it as it is. Click on next. Then you change the admin password, very important. Change the admin password to something more secure than I do. I would recommend to have this at least set to 12 letters mixed with uppercase, lowercase, numbers and special characters. Write it down somewhere that you don't lose it, and make sure that's a complex password, because if somebody gets access to your firewall, especially if you open up ports to the outside, he has compromised your whole network and can move laterally through your network. Very big security problem. Make sure this is a very secure password. Once that is done, click on next, click on reload to apply all the settings. Now the settings get applied to pfSense. And boom, there we go. Congratulations, pfSense is now configured. Click on check for updates, just for good measure. But because we just have downloaded the image, I don't think there will be any updates available. And as expected, it's already up to date. So we can go ahead and click on this link here to get to our dashboard. Accept the copyright warning again and take the user survey of Netgate if you want to. Then you can read through all of this information, the Netgate services and support disclaimer thing here. If you don't want to have that there, just click on the X to get rid of it. So this is your dashboard. Now I will just give you a very quick overview because this is just a pfSense installation video. And if you want to check out the full course that I am creating that will go more in depth over all the basic configuration stuff, then I will put the link to it into the description once the course is released, which will be in a couple of weeks most likely. If you want to stay updated on the pfSense course, just follow me on Twitter. I'm @Ezoic. Then I will definitely put the info out there once the course is released. Okay, let's go through that real quick. You can see there's our WAN interface. It's up and it's connected. Also our LAN is connected. Then you have some system information here. In case there is a new update available for pfSense, it will show up here and will tell you to update. You can see your CPU. You can see the uptime of the firewall. You can see the DNS servers in use and last config change. Also important if more people are using on it. Are using the firewall. Jesus Christ, I cannot talk today. Okay, next one is the CPU usage. You can see here, you see the memory usage, swap usage, and the disk usage. In case you want to change your internet connection or the, like I said, the type of connection that you use, DHCP or PPPoE later, click on interfaces, click on WAN, and you can always change that to whatever else you want here and can then scroll down and click on save if you change that in the future. But I guess that concludes the how to install pfSense 2.4.5 video at this point. If you have any further questions, leave them in the comments below. The community and myself are happy to answer your questions to the best of my ability. And again, please subscribe to my channel if you want to. If you like this video, just subscribe so I get some positive algorithm outcomes from YouTube. Anyway, guys, thanks for watching, and I hope to see you back in another video. Until then, bye. Have fun with your new pfSense firewall.